I'm here with Shannon Bollhardt, the head women's basketball coach at St. Michael's College. How are you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing great. How are
Good.
you?
Good. I'm very excited for this. Yeah, I graduated from St. Mike's 2.5 years ago now. And yeah, I
Mhm.
know you do a lot of things for St. Mike's, and you're definitely a very integral part of the community. So I'm very excited to share a little bit about you and all the things you do for St. Mike's.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. So I know that your team has a scrimmage next week, next Thursday against UVM to start your season. So
Yeah.
can you just tell me a little bit about, what and your team has been doing to get ready for the upcoming season?
Sure. Yeah, we had a tough one last year. So we kind of the prep for this year really started when our season ended last year. We had a really intense postseason for about 6 weeks. They went home for the summer. We gave them stuff that we'd like them to do for Division II. One of the rules is coaches can't work our players out, nor can we get workout results from them. So we kind of were at the mercy of the work that they did. When they came in the fall, we did fitness testing, some strength testing. They exceeded expectations. So they came in fit, they came in strong, which allowed us to enter our preseason, which started, I want to say the first week of September. We did a 5.5 week preseason where we were on the court, in the strength room, in the gym, and just kind of starting to put together everything. We had 5 new players. We have 5 first years come into our program this year, joining 10 returners. So we were also a little bit at the mercy of how quickly our first years were going to pick things up, and they picked things up really, really fast. Our returners, came into this year knowing that last year was a struggle. So they set a really high bar for what they expected of themselves, what they expected, honestly, of the coaching staff and the first year. So our preseason was incredible. It ended a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. So we had 5.5 weeks, and now we're a week and a half into practice, formal practice. Our foundational offense is in, our transition is in, our, foundational defense. Now we're just looking to fine tune things. And we had a scrimmage last week. We played Plattsburgh. We're headed to Dartmouth on Sunday for a closed scrimmage, and then we'll play Vermont in the exhibition next week. So that will be kind of our final opportunity to see how our stuff looks, to see what we need to fix, what we need to go back to, what's looking great before we start games here in a little less than a month. So all good things so far, but when the record's 0-0, things are good.
Yeah, so I asked this next question because I'm, genuinely curious about this. So, next week you have your first exhibition, then your first game is against St. Anselm on November 15th. Now that your season's beginning, just in about a week, or your first exhibition's in a week, then your first game, 2 weeks after that, do you ramp up practices, workouts with your team now that your season's coming up, or do you usually like to keep it consistent, from the time,
Yeah, we keep it.
August and September, when students came back on campus to now?
Yeah, we keep it consistent. So we are at the mercy of the NCAA has different rules. So in the preseason, we're only allowed to go 8 hours a week, and we have to give 2 days off. So we are Monday through Friday. We're on the court, I think 3 days a week, full team. They're in the strength room 3 days a week. So we're restricted by hours and days off. Once we hit our traditional practice season, we have a lot more time with them. So the rules changed this year. October 15th, we called it Basketball Christmas, was the first day of practice of our true championship season. And in that model, we could practice 6 days a week for a total of 20 hours. So we had 20 hours a week with only 1 day off, where our preseason is only 8 hours a week with 2 days off. This year, they changed the model for Division II. We were able to start practice 35 days before our first game. So that landed on October 11th for us. And between October 11th and our first game, we have to take 10 days off. So it's different for coaches where, you'd practice kind of 6 days in a row, day off, 6 days in a row, day off. For us, we have a lot more days off built in. Like I said, we just played Plattsburgh on Saturday. We gave them Sunday, Monday off. We played Dartmouth on Sunday. We gave them Monday off. We're going to give them Monday off. And then after Vermont, they're actually going to have 3 days off.
Okay.
So it's kind of, we do that with the intention so that when they're in here in practice, they're going to go really hard and it's going to be demanding. But we give them adequate rest on the backside. And if we do have a stretch where we practice, 3-4 days in a row, that 4th day is typically a little bit lighter. We do some shooting, but there are expectations that they do outside of practice. Our practices are 2 hours. Usually we're going hard for about 90 minutes. Either on the front end or the back end, we're doing a dynamic warm up or a cool down. things like that. But outside of practice, I have players in there right now. I can hear them shooting. I have players in there shooting right now. They get an extra lift in, they're watching film. So they do a lot of stuff outside of practice too. So we don't come close to the 20 hours in a week, but it's nice to have all those hours.
Yeah, and you talked about you have 2 scrimmages, then you have the exhibition against UVM next week. What do you like your players to get out of these, exhibitions? I'm sure, they're exhibitions, so I'm sure, score's not important.
The Vermont one for us is it's a game atmosphere, so it's treated like a game, just there's no real result outside of it. No one gets a win or loss on their season record. So the scrimmages are nice because they're closed. No one's there. We're in our practice gear. Usually we have unlimited timeouts. No one's going to foul out. It's really meant for us to do kind of what we need to do and see it against another opponent, where Vermont is very much treated like a game. So for us, well, first of all, Vermont is incredible. Won the America East last year, NCAA tournament berth, ranked preseason #1 this year with preseason all conference players. We have a great relationship with Vermont. One day a year, we're opponents. The other 364, we're probably their biggest fans. So, going into the exhibition this year, they're the real deal. They're the real deal. So for me, it's how are we competing against, the best of the best, and how are we, it also gives our players an opportunity to kind of get the first game jitters out, hopefully. So, we're hoping for it to be a really competitive exhibition. We're hoping that the stuff that we've had in both offensively and defensively look good against them. And if it doesn't, what are the things that we need to change? And it also gives our players an opportunity to play against Division I opponents. They're also friends with some of the players on the Vermont team. So it's great for the community. It's great for us. It's something we've done for years. It's something that we look forward to.
Yes. And then I also see on your schedule on November 19th and November 20th, you have 2 games scheduled in Puerto Rico. So I'm sure that'll be pretty cool to go down to Puerto Rico. So what do you expect?
Excited. We're very excited about that. I owe this team a trip. We took them when I was an assistant. We went to Ireland in May.
Oh, nice.
And since then, we haven't really gone anywhere. We went to Florida. We played a tip-off tournament in Florida, just outside Orlando 6 years ago, maybe. We had some stuff in the works, but with COVID, there were restrictions. We actually lost a season during the COVID year. So when I got the email from a travel company about playing in Puerto Rico, another team in our conference played in it last year. They said it was great. So our team's really looking forward to it. We're playing Puerto Rican teams, so that will be different, and exciting. So it's an opportunity for us to play different types of opponents, for us to have great team building and bonding opportunities. To go spend 5 days with your team in Puerto Rico is great. We also have a lot of families traveling down too. So we'll have, some support and not just kind of be all by ourselves. So really, really looking forward to that trip, and hoping, to come out with 2 wins out of it.
Yeah, and then I also see on your schedule, you have games over winter break when most students, are on winter break, like December 30th, you have a game, to January 3rd, January 6th, January 10th. So, do you think it's difficult for your players, to play games, when most, regular non-student athletes are on winter break,
I think it's just one of those deals, like playing Division II college basketball, playing any level. I played Division III and we had the same thing. It is what it is. It's kind of what you have to do. Division II, we have a mandatory 7-day break. So from December 20th to 26th, we have to give them those days off.
Okay.
This year, I think the way our calendar falls, we play a game maybe on the 19th or 18th. So they'll go home after that game. So they might get an extra day. But honestly, being here over winter break is a little bit more fun. There's no classes. We do more things as a team. We'll go eat meals together. We'll do, go bowling or go downtown to Church Street and, look at lights. So, it's a lot less pressure for them. They don't have the academic component. We kind of just get to focus on basketball. Do I think they wish they could stay home a couple extra days? Yes. But you were in that boat too. I think a lot of students who aren't competing, that winter break is really long. And I think a lot of students by the end of it are actually ready to leave home and get back to campus. So, for us, it's a really fun time. We're able to do a lot more. They can really focus on basketball without the academic piece, on the other side. So I haven't heard any complaints.
So you're also co-advisor of SAAC. So can you tell me a little bit about that? I know it's Student Athletic Advisory Committee, how you became co-advisor, and how a student athlete can become a member of SAAC.
Yeah, so SAAC is an NCAA initiative. So any NCAA institution has to have the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. It was part when I applied for this job. Most or every full-time coach here also has what's called a secondary duty. So you do your coaching job, and then you do something else to assist the department. So that was the secondary duty assigned to my role as the women's basketball coach. What's great about it is I was involved in SAAC as an athlete. I was actually president for 2 years of SAAC at Southern Maine where I played. So it was a really easy transition for me. I just basically modeled it after what we did in Maine. Yeah, I think this is my 11th year with them. It's really, we've tried to make it be something that it's a student-led initiative, and I'm just there to help with logistics or, yes, I think we can do this, or no, I think we can't. I help organize the meetings, just kind of get everybody on track. And then it's led by students. Our president is a member of the field hockey team. Our vice president is on the men's ice hockey team. We have a secretary, social media, DEI, a DEI appointee. And then there are 2 reps from each of our sports. And those reps are selected by their teams. I don't select them. Coaches don't select them. It's an organization where when someone is graduating, that person usually tries to identify someone on the team who they think would do a good job in that role. And sometimes it's the captain of the team. Sometimes it's the leading scorer of the team. But a lot of the time it's people who are just really invested in community engagement and community service and wanting to be, in leadership positions in different ways. That's what resonated with me. I by no means was the best player on my team in college, but I was able to do a lot of work in my role with SAAC. So that's what we try to do with our student athletes. And there are lots of initiatives that they're working on. It's a really impressive group and one that I love working with. It gives me an opportunity to interact with 40 students that I never would just as a women's basketball coach. So the relationships that I formed from that group, I still keep in touch with a lot of people, non-basketball, obviously basketball players, but non-basketball people too. And it's something that just kind of fills my cup in a different way. I have a degree in social work, so that's kind of the work that I do with SAAC really fills kind of the cup off the court for me. So it's been great.
Yeah, I see you have members from all sports. So can anyone who's a part of a sport be a part of SAAC?
They can. We limit
Yeah,
it to only 2 people because we don't want this to be a huge group. We've had big numbers. We've had 3 or 4 per sport, and that's just too many people. So we've cut it down to 2, and it's tough when we have more than 2 from a sport wanting to be part of the group. But that's, I think, what the piece that also makes it so enticing is it is a limited group. So for folks to be a SAAC member and attend the meetings, we're limiting it to 2, but anytime that SAAC does any type of initiative or event, it's open to all, not only just athletes, but the campus. So athletes can get involved in other ways too. The SAAC members are really the liaison between the group and their sport. So.
Now, can you also tell me about Hope Happens Here? I know how it got started, but can you just tell me a little bit about how, Hope Happens Here got started?
Sure. Hope Happens Here. Do you know the year?
2017, I think.
2017. Yeah. 2 men's ice hockey players, Justin McKenzie and Danny Divis, were in the car having a conversation. It ended up talking about mental health. And they're like, you know what? Like, we don't have anything in place, both at St. Mike's and nationally. Mental health isn't part of the conversation around sports. So they came and met with myself, their coach, our athletic director, Chris Kenny, and our then faculty athletic rep, Dave Landers, about doing something about it. So the 2 of them created this small group called Hope Happens Here, which is focused on ending the stigma around mental health in athletes. And since then, it's grown tremendously. They have a nonprofit. There are chapters collegiately around New England and expanding. There are high school chapters, a lot of which are in Vermont. It's really taken off. They were the trailblazers for this group. They really started the conversation on mental health. And I think that St. Mike's has been years ahead of the mental health conversation. When we go to other conferences or other people go to other events where mental health is being spoken about, the stuff that we're doing, we're already doing it, So it's really impressive. Again, similar to SAAC, it's a group that has an executive board. There are reps from different sports. We host awareness games for each sport. So again, just bringing light to the conversation about mental health. They're working with our wellness center to create special hours for counseling for student athletes whose practice schedules might not align, getting trained to be peer advocates and peer support folks. So it's really incredible. Mental health was not something that we spoke about when I was an athlete. Even when I was in, my first years of coaching, you talk about physical health, you kind of talk about emotional health, but mental health was never something that we spoke about. And it's really, really impressive, the work they do.
And I just want to give you this opportunity. Are there any other, passions and involvements that you want to discuss, outside of, being the head coach for the women's basketball team?
Yeah, I have an opportunity. I serve on a couple committees in the institution. So I'm on the staff welfare committee, which is comprised of staff members all over campus. So I love the work that I do with them. I help plan events, our annual community service day, again, an advocate for staff. I don't know. I feel like I do a lot. I feel like I always volunteer to do a lot of things, but no, I have a 3.5-year-old daughter. So she takes, when I'm not here, I'm with her. I actually had her with me at practice last night. So she's around and the team loves her. And
well, two things I know I wanted you to talk about, I know, what is it? Pride walks, participate in those are important to you. And I think in the summer you always, host camps.
Yeah. So part of our deal is we host 2 week-long summer camps, one in June and one in July. And my associate head coach, Andrea Lozo, is the one who actually is the driving force behind that. But we sold out almost from both of our camps. I think we had over 100 campers each week, and that's just so much fun. Our players come back and work it. It's a chance for us to just hang out with our players informally. It's a way to give back to the Burlington, greater Burlington community. They'll come to our games. It's really fun. So that's something that we do in the summer. And then, work that we do outside. We, both Coach Lozo and myself, along with the majority, our team, social justice and social, issues are something that's important to us and something that I'm vocal about. I don't by any means try to impose my views on my team. They know what my views are, and we give them opportunities to engage in other meaningful things outside of basketball. It's never a mandate. So one thing that we do and we help organize is the Pride Parade, being part of the Pride Parade in Burlington every September, where hundreds of athletes come and walk in that parade. It's really, really incredible. We do work with Sisters in Sports. So we partner with Winooski Middle School, which has a really, really, really diverse population. So we partner with their team as mentor groups within our own team. A couple of weeks ago, we participated in the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer Walk, so focusing on women's health. And then throughout the season, we'll certainly do games supporting mental health initiatives with Hope Happens Here. We'll do a Coaches versus Cancer event. We've partnered with Slam T1D, focusing on type 1 diabetes. We had a player a few years ago with type 1 diabetes. So some of the initiatives that we do, some of them are the ones that we've done for years that are just important to the program, are important to Coach Lozo and myself. Others are ones that are brought to us by our team and said, hey, coach, this is something that we really want to support or be a part of. And we find ways to do so. So we really tell our players, you're gonna come in here and be a basketball player, but we're also going to really push you outside of just being a basketball player. And where are ways that we can be, great members of the community or give back? Because once you graduate from here, the odds of you playing the WNBA are probably a little bit small. So we want to make sure that we're bringing in, or we have folks leaving St. Mike's who are really well-rounded, ready to face the world, strong, tough women ready to go. So we try to provide opportunities both on and off the court for them to have those experiences.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about your associate head coach, Coach Lozo, who's in her 11th season with St. Mike's? What did she mean to you and your team?
Oh, she's everything. I'm nothing without her. No, she, I remember the day I got the job. So I was an assistant here for 5 years. I was promoted to head coach when our head coach left. I was 28 years old and was like, oh crap, what now? I said, the first thing I need an assistant who is going to be well-versed, ready to go, to help me navigate this. So when the job posting went up and Coach Lozo, who was at Southern New Hampshire University at the time, also in NE10, reached out to me, I said, perfect. She understands the league. She played in the league. She's coached in the league. So it was a match made in heaven. She is one of my dearest friends. She is someone that I will not make a decision without. She was promoted to associate head coach, I think 2 years ago. Honestly, she should have had that role 5 years ago. We are a 2-person staff. So we, like I said, not one decision is made without her. At this point, we're co-head coaches is really the way I view her. She handles, I don't even know the things that she does because she just does them so seamlessly and so well. And I kind of have my lane and she has her lane. We work seamlessly together. There isn't a power dynamic. That's just not how I operate. Our team loves her. She is incredibly well respected by our players. She is, if you walk by her office, there's 3 to 4 players in there all the time. I don't know how she gets work done. So, she's an incredibly fierce competitor. She's going to be your biggest cheerleader, but she's also going to be the one that gets on you the most, which I know is why she's so well respected. And she will do absolutely anything for anyone on this team. And I think, I couldn't imagine coaching without her. So, we're very, very lucky to have her. And for an assistant coach to stay for 11 years, that just doesn't happen. So the loyalty that she shows to this program is really, really incredible and something that I probably take for granted. Can't say enough good things.
So my next question, not to single out any players, I'm sure all your players are very important and special, but can you tell me a little bit about the Furch sisters, freshman Amber and junior Brianna from Los Angeles? How did you get 2 players from Los Angeles, and what do you think they'll bring to you, to your team?
Very strange, just a very weird. Most of our players are New England, New York, New Jersey. That's kind of our niche. We don't go out to the Midwest or South much because it's so saturated with Division II schools. And honestly, I didn't know that anybody from California would really want to come to little old Vermont and play. So the way the story goes is the current coach at Niagara, Jada, she was an assistant coach at St. Mike's in the late 90s, early 2000s. And when she was an assistant coach, there was a man on the men's team who was playing. He was from, I can't remember exactly where he was from. Anyway, this guy, Brendan Leong, is actually Bree and Amber's stepdad. So they're out in California. So Bree was playing out in California. Wasn't a great situation for her. So she was looking to make a move and transfer. So her stepdad, Brendan, reached out to Jada at Niagara, who knew me, said, hey, we have this kid in the transfer portal. I can vouch for her. What do you need? At that point, we needed a point guard. So we were able to watch some film. We did some Zooms. It was fell in love with her via Zoom. She never even visited campus and said yes without even visiting campus. So we said, all right, buddy, you need a pair of good winter boots and a winter coat, and then you're going to be fine. So, she came last year. We loved her, did great. Her sister, Amber, was also looking for a home. And with COVID, anybody who was impacted by COVID got what we call the extra COVID year. So it's really impacted recruiting, where a lot of our players have an optional 5th year, where players in high school who are coming in, they might miss out on rosters because of the additional eligibility. So Amber was kind of in that mix, like incredibly, incredibly talented, but was having a harder time finding a home just kind of with this extra COVID stuff. So we had space and availability, and we said, if this is a place that you'd be interested in, I asked Bree first. I'm like, are you okay if I reach out to your sister? Would you want to play with her? And she said yes. So we talked to Amber a little bit last year in May when Amber and her family came to Vermont to move Brianna out. We had the chance to meet with Amber, show her around campus, let her know there's a spot there if she wants it. She said yes, and it's been incredible. Their personalities are fit in beautifully. Their basketball IQ is through the roof. Their ability to handle, gain the paint, knock down jump shots, passes. We actually do a drill that we call it Furch passing, because they'll drive and do a quick kick, that our forwards haven't really seen a whole ton. So they've just added a level of competitiveness on the court. They've added, they've definitely enhanced our guards. We were really limited in the guard situation last year because of numbers and injuries. So we're expecting big things from both of them. They've been a real breath of fresh air for our program.
So I want to get into your start in basketball. So can you tell me, how how did you get started playing basketball? You know, what drew you to playing basketball, and do you have any early memories, you know, growing up playing basketball?
Sure. Yeah, I was tall. So everybody said go play basketball. I'm 6 feet now. I don't know how tall I was, but back then I want to say it was like the fifth grade, maybe. I didn't play right away. I want to say the fifth grade. They said, you're tall, go play rec basketball. So I played, I was okay. I started to play on CYO. So it was like a Catholic youth organization through the church that we attended. I played in that. I made my middle school team. I made the 8th grade team in 7th grade. I'm like, okay, maybe this is something that I could be good at. And just from there, it kind of blossomed. I played club, and, you know, I grew up in Vermont. So I grew up 2 miles from campus. Vermont basketball was okay. It wasn't great. So whenever we would be good in Vermont, and then whenever we traveled outside, it kind of got that wake up call. I really committed to the game. My skill is okay. I have a good basketball mind, I guess. So I had the ability to always be a play ahead of the game, which allowed me to be a step ahead of the game and make up for maybe not being the best basketball player. And I just fell in love with it. And in high school, I had an amazing coach who advocated for me and helped me in the recruiting process. There's also actually another player on my high school team who was the same height as I was. So we were able to work together. We got recruited together to go to the University of Southern Maine. So yeah, it was just something that I tried. I was good at, I committed to, and I had really, really outstanding coaches. I think, you know, you're nothing without, in my opinion, the coaching that you have. So I got really lucky in that sense.
Yeah. So yeah, you just discussed it a little bit, but you played college basketball at Southern Maine, where your team finished national runner-up in 05-06, and then they made a Final Four run in 04-05. So can you just tell me a little bit about your time, you know, playing college basketball at Southern Maine?
Yeah, it was incredible. I think I have a very unique experience. I think I lost either 14 games in my career. We were good, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We were really good. And one of the reasons I picked Southern Maine was because of how good they were. You know, they've had a history of excellence. So when I had an opportunity to be a part of that, I jumped at it. My freshman year, I got good minutes. You know, I played, I had my spot. And then our sophomore year, we got a couple transfers come in, and we just clicked. We made it to the Final Four game that year, and we lost in the Final Four, but that, for some reason, for Division III, they played a consolation game. So we won the consolation game. So we finished 3rd in the country, which was outstanding. We didn't graduate anybody from that roster. We didn't have any seniors. So going into the following season, we were preseason ranked #1, and we were #1 nationally the entire year, except when we lost in the national championship game to Hope College. So yeah, it was a tremendous opportunity. Again, incredible coaching. Coach Fifield was the head coach. Coach Mike McDevitt was our assistant coach, but he had been a long time head coach at St. Joseph, Maine. After I graduated, he went back to St. Joseph, Maine, and is, you know, in the NCAA tournament all the time. Fun fact, my high school coach, my college coach, and my assistant college coach all have courts named after them. So you want to talk about coaches that you've played for. But yeah, my time at Southern Maine was great. My senior year, I unfortunately tore my ACL in a scrimmage, so I missed that year. And then I came back for a 5th year for my red shirt. And we made the NCAA tournament. I think we lost in the 2nd round. But it was incredible. I think I had a really unique experience there. It took me a while when I switched gears and went into coaching to separate those experiences. I had to kind of relearn how basketball was as a coach versus a player, and understanding that the experience that I had at Southern Maine isn't one that everybody else has. So learning to deal with loss and how to bounce back from loss, and player development, you know, jumping up a division. That was Division III. This is Division II. But my time at Southern Maine is incredible. They're still some of my best friends. I still talk to my coaches. I went and visited campus this summer when I was in Maine. So cannot say enough good things. And it shaped me as a leader too. As I mentioned, you know, I was president of SAAC for 2 years there. So I was able to develop in so many ways. I'm really, really grateful for the experience I had there.
And then I'm interested to know, you know, did you always know you wanted to be a college head coach, or, you know, was that never part of your plan? You know, what drew you to wanting to become a college head coach?
It was never part of my plan.
Okay.
Not because I didn't want to, just something I didn't think of. I had a degree. My degree was in social work. I was really invested in working with the at-risk youth population. So like middle school, high school kids who just needed some extra support. That's what my internship was in college. That's where I was going to go. I was really looking in at AmeriCorps. I was looking at involving myself in ways where I can help shape lives of young people. When I came back, when I graduated and came back home, the previous 2 summers I had worked the basketball camps here at St. Mike's. So I knew the head coach, Coach Jen Niebling. She knew that I was back in town, asked if I would be interested in coming on part-time and working with post players. I'm like, you know what? I missed the game. Sure, why not? I was a paraeducator at South Burlington High School, so I had time. And then I fell in love with it. I realized, wow, I actually really, I love basketball. I missed it being a part of my life, and it gave me an opportunity to do the work that I wanted to do, helping work with young people. I mean, at that point, there was a very small age gap between me and the players. But it was able to, again, fill my cup in a way where I was able to make a direct impact on folks. The following year, the full-time assistant left. So the full-time assistant position opened up, and I really had to think long and hard about that, because I knew that if I applied for that job, and moved into a full-time role, that's the direction that my career was going to go. I was going to commit to being a basketball coach, and kind of the other stuff that I was also passionate about would be pushed, kind of to the side. So I took the leap. I got the job. I was a full-time assistant for 4 years. And then when our head coach left, I threw my name in the hat, honestly, not sure I was going to get it. I was, like I said, I was young, and only had 5 years of coaching experience, but they took a chance on me. And 11 years later, here I sit. But I've had the opportunity, both with the head coach that I was an assistant to, the department, administration that I work for, to still pursue passions of mine off the court, which I think is what's translated with my work in SAAC, with Hope Happens Here, other initiatives we do on campus. So I get the best of all worlds. So I got really lucky. St. Mike's is a special place. Not every place will allow coaches to pursue things in a way that St. Mike's has. So I'm very grateful for that as well.
Yeah, you were just touching on it a little bit, but can you tell me a little bit about your time being assistant coach at St. Mike's? And then also, what was it like for you to be named the head women's basketball coach in 2013?
I think being an assistant coach is the best job in the world. Your relationships with players are different. I was really close with our players. I had an opportunity to help them navigate different situations. I was able to provide guidance to the head coach, but ultimately it wasn't my decision all the time. I was able to give input, so that was tough at times, but also not, because it took the stress out of it being your decision. I loved being an assistant. When I was named head coach, I knew the type of coach that I wanted to be, and the type of role that I wanted to have within the program. I knew that I wasn't going to have a big staff. So a lot of the stuff I did as an assistant, I knew would translate into the head coach. The hardest thing for me was recognizing that my relationships with players are going to change. I didn't change, my title changed. So I knew that my relationships, I'd have to put a little bit more distance between those, that I wouldn't be the go-to person anymore. So that was really hard for me initially, was not, having as strong of relationships with players, still strong, but just different. And then being the person whose decision mattered. I went 5 years of offering suggestions and thoughts, and many of my thoughts were the decision that the head coach made. But now, it was me, and the weight fell on me. So it took me a couple of years to get used to and comfortable with that. But when you have someone like Coach Lozo by your side, it makes things much, much, much easier and better.
So you've been at St. Mike's for about 15 years now, since 2008. Can you just tell me what you've enjoyed most about, being at St. Mike's for about 15 years now?
It's crazy that I've been here for 15 years. This is my 16th season. It's been so fast and so long all at the same time. It's cliche, but it's the players and it's the students that I get to work with. It's celebrating weddings and babies and career moves, and all, once they're out of college and once they're in college, hey coach, I got an A on this paper, or I'm involved in this organization. It's all the stuff off the court that I love. Of course I remember all of our records because that's my job, but I remember the big plays that we make on the court. I remember us beating Stonehill 2 years ago in a game that we probably shouldn't have won, and I walk into the locker room and everybody's spraying water. It's those spraying water. It's all of those things that I love most. And those are the things that keep me coming back year after year, despite maybe some rough patches. But it's the players, it's the relationships I have with them while they're here. It's the relationships that we continue to have outside of here. And I get to give back to a game that gave so much to me. So the opportunity to continue to move the needle for women's basketball is really important.
So my final question is, to you, what is the most rewarding and fulfilling thing about getting to work with student athletes? And why do you think St. Mike's is such a special place where you
Yeah,
wanted to stay for 15 years?
I think, I kind of I touched on it a little bit just here, but the type of student that St. Mike's attracts is just different in the best way possible. It's highly motivated, intelligent, high academic, with a commitment to community, a commitment to understanding where they fall in the greater scheme of the world. We don't have entitlement, we don't have discourse, and when we do, it's handled appropriately and effectively. So I think the type of student that we attract both in the women's basketball program but also athletics in general is a really special student. And I think that's reflected in the news articles that go out about not only the impact that our student athletes are having on the playing fields, but also the stuff that they do outside the playing fields. It's really a student athlete, and I think that that's outstanding. And one of that's why we cultivate them in so many ways. That's what's really rewarding, is watching them walk in as this shy, timid little first year on day one, and these just like powerhouse people when they walk across the stage at graduation. So graduation is my favorite and my least favorite day, of the year. It's so bittersweet, but to just look at all of the body of work that each student has done crossing that stage, it's really impressive.